Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Leadership Podcast. I have a special guest with me today, Melissa Romero. Melissa and I actually bumped into each other at a holistic healing expo that I was at with Danielle Massey. We were kind of hanging out just at the Wellness Collective table. Melissa came over. We started talking. Melissa's connected with Diva Girl. There's a lot of different connections in the community. And I was like, Melissa, you have got to be on the podcast. And she's like, sure, cool. Here's my card. So reached out and we set it up. And Melissa is joining us here today. She is the spiritual misfit, a barrier breaking empowerment coach, ceremonialist, and healer who will guide you on a personal freedom journey from limiting beliefs to living the sweetest version of life possible. She helps you to activate the divine force necessary to make fearless decisions from the heart. Melissa's specialty is helping you connect with your true life purpose and empowering you with the tools to make it happen. The spiritual misfit prides herself in offering you practical applications to operate from an unapologetic space of self-love, forgiveness, and holistic success. Her healing style and soul growth technique is raw, real, and deeply nurturing. She is guaranteed to awaken the dormant superpowers within you. Whew, Melissa, like I said, I practiced my bios before we hit record, and I was like, that is a powerhouse bio. There is a lot in there. And so I would love for you to just kind of break down, how did you actually get to being this fully embodied version of yourself? A little bit of what your journey was like from your own words.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No pressure. I mean, that bio, I'm like, shit, is that me?
Yes, that's you.
Oh God. No. So my life, I grew up an inner city child. My mother was a teenager. So she was 16 when she had my oldest sister. And she had me before she could even have her first drink. So before she was even 21, she had 3 children.
Wow.
And, daughter of an alcoholic and a teen mom. And so, I had a pretty bumpy childhood. It wasn't like my story or the life I created for myself, because I always believe that we create this reality, right? This life school that we come into. And so the life that I created for myself was pretty challenging. My mother went to jail. She went to prison when I was young. And we lived in and out of different homes. And it was for a child, it was pretty challenging, but it was exactly the life I needed to become the person I am today. And so it was absolute perfection. And I've been able to experience these life experiences that are challenging to all of us, right? Especially to women. I love to work with women a lot. I mean, I work with men as well, but mostly my specialty is women. And so I've been able to experience all these challenges in life. And I feel like every one of them that has been an experience in this lifetime has taught me something that I can go ahead and teach to my clients. So like the complications of having a difficult childhood, my parents weren't immigrants, but they were English language learners. So coming into that from that cultural perspective, a lot of my clients are women of color. And all types of women of color. I have Indian clients. I have, Black clients. I have Hispanic clients. Like I have all different clients. And so I have this understanding of that cultural background, right? And then I also have an understanding of just life's challenges, just the things that we go through as women, as humans. I'm also a single mom. So I have a lot of mom clients that I help out through this process. And so all these beautiful challenges, I feel like were absolutely orchestrated in my life so that I can do what I do today. And it's been a beautiful journey. I've also been on a plant medicine journey for about 7 years now. So that's where I got the ceremonial aspect of it. It awoke in me this thing that has been dormant in me for years, because I grew up seeing these things. Like we have a lot of, in Puerto Rican culture, there's a lot of connection to our indigenous roots. Some of the practices my grandmother did, a lot of connection to Mother Earth, a lot of connection to the plants, a lot of connection to herbs, to things like that. And so going on this plant medicine journey reawoke that stuff. I don't know if reawoke is a word, but anyway, awoke that part of me that that was so dormant because we became so Americanized. And by Americanized, like, because we are American in Puerto Rico, but like we became so like culturally Americanized, and it just, we started losing that. Like, instead of, using herbs, which my grandmother still used to help us heal, my mother would use Tylenol, antibiotics, or where we grew up when my mom first came here, we grew up with like the old fashioned way. And so all that, and just understanding how sacred earth is, has become like part of how I create ceremony, and that's become my journey. So one of my goals in this life for myself is to live life in ceremony. And
Oh,
so I create that space for women when I do my goddess circles. So I do private goddess circles here in Philly, but I do travel. I'm going to actually do one in California. People hire me to kind of like a party planner, but a goddess circle planner.
yeah.
People hire me to come out, organize an entire goddess circle, depending on what they want. They get like a menu. They get to pick out what they want, and they don't have to worry about anything. They just fill out the menu, and then I get in touch with them a week or two before their event, and I tell them what I've organized for them. They tell me what they want. It's just like a party planner. And so I've organized these goddess circles, and this has been another passion of mine because
Mm.
it's a place where women, and here's one thing that I've noticed in culture, and I grew up this way as well, that us as women, we're constantly in competition with each other.
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things in this whole journey that I've realized is that we can actually be each other's support and love each other and grow from each other and learn from each other, instead of looking at how can I be better than her, or how can I. And so the circles is where that started with me. This is where I got to create that space with women, like really unite women and say,
Oh.
look, you can see your sister for who she is. You can see her. And the thing is that when we're in competition with each other, we don't show each other our true selves, because
Mm.
we are trying to show each other the better version of ourselves,
Right. We
so
can't be
that
weak. We can't be
no, we
vulnerable.
don't.
Yeah.
But when we're in a space like a goddess circle where we get to be vulnerable, we get to see that, oh shit, I'm not the only one going through this. Like,
Mm.
my sisters are going through this too. And then we have that love and compassion for each other. So
Ah,
that's the ceremonialism and the coaching. What else did I say that I have?
like literally all of
Well,
the things. All
so
of the things.
I'm also a Reiki master, so I do Reiki healing. And I also do a lot of energy clearing work. I'm actually working at an event tonight, a breathwork event, and I'm just going to go around in energy because, with breathwork, you release a lot.
Yes.
So I'm going to
Yes.
go around helping people release some of that stagnant energy. So I do that as
Ah,
well.
that is I love all of that. I literally have to admit to you that my wheels are turning because I really wanted I'm recently engaged and I'm thinking like I want a very like conscious time with my girlfriends for my bachelorette party and I'm like, "Okay, Melissa, like I'm going to hit you up and we're going to plan something." So if my friends are listening to this, you will be seeing Melissa in a couple months when we finally get that on the books. And just going back to the part in your story where you were feeling this tug, if you will, on your soul to really maybe lean into your ancestry a little bit more, lean into plant medicine, lean in a little bit more, lean into really becoming more spiritual. What was your life actually looking like before you really surrendered to that calling? And how did you make that transition?
Beautiful. So this is so funny because growing up pretty poor, not having a home that was, quote unquote, like ideal. My father was an alcoholic. Once my mother finally left my father, she ended up dating this man that was a drug dealer. They got caught with drugs. And she ended up going to prison. And then, so I never had an ideal upbringing. And then when she came out of prison, she was just a single mom, exploring life, growing up with us, literally. Like she explored so many different things in life. And so because I didn't have it, I believed that that's what I needed. I needed a husband, a
Mm.
steady relationship with a good husband. I needed a college degree. I needed a job that made at least six figures. And this is the belief that I had. And so
Mhm.
when I had my first son, I went to college and I had already had a few credits, but I dropped out because I decided to party instead. But I went to college and I finished my degree when he was about 6, I think. He was about 6 years old when I finished my degree. He's 21 now, by the way. I finished my degree and I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't have to work 15 jobs anymore. By that point, I was a bartender, a makeup artist. a behavioral therapist, believe it or not. I was
Yeah.
like everything. You name it, I had that job. And so then I got my college degree and I worked for Merrill Lynch. Right. This was around 2008. I worked for Merrill Lynch and then the whole market crashed and all that stuff. And so then I got let
Mm.
go of Merrill Lynch and I didn't have anything else. I'm bilingual. So my aunt reached out. She's like, you can teach. She's like, I can get you a teaching job. All you have to do is take these credits. And so I went and I started teaching. And I married my ex-husband, who's a police officer. So we had the perfect life. Like he was a
Like
police officer.
you really went in there and you checked all of those
All the
boxes.
boxes, all the boxes. And I love my ex-husband. Like me and him, we get along so well. Like I told you earlier, he's an amazing co-parent. And so we did all the things. I had my teaching job with a pension, all the things that everyone feels insecure. I had a
Yeah.
pension. I had summers off. I had Christmas break, spring break. I had a police officer husband. We bought a house. We had a dog, 2.5 kids, the whole thing. And then I started feeling like something was missing. Like this is what I was
Mm.
supposed to get, and I was supposed to be happy. So I was like, oh, you know what it is? I don't have a 6-figure job. That's what it is. So I left teaching. No,
Oh,
that was the solution. I needed,
absolutely.
yeah,
More money.
that's
Duh.
the solution. And I am such a great manifester. That's one thing I've always been super good at. When I really want something, I could just like I manifested. So I was teaching. I had been teaching. I don't want to lie, but I'll say around about 4 or 5 years. And I was like, I need a better job. So I left teaching. I got a job in corporate. I was making about 120 a year. It's so crazy. I got this job.
That's literally after taxes. That is 6 figures. Like right there.
Literally,
Like your take home was 6 figures.
so
Exactly.
exactly. So it's so funny because I went to this job and they were like, yeah, your salary is going to be 70. And it was way more than my teaching salary. And I was like, I'll take it. Like, I'm sure I can work. I didn't realize I was going to get commission on top of it. I didn't know that I was getting commission on top of it. So I literally doubled my salary with commission. It was insane. So here I am making these 6 figures that I thought I needed to be happy. I was like, oh, wait, I'm still not happy. Maybe I need a BMW. So I got a BMW.
Right. Because if it's not the money, it's the car that the money can buy. Got it. Mhm.
Then I got a Louis bag, and then I got Louboutin shoes. And then I kept like just spending. And I was like, why am I not happy? And at the same time, I had right before when I got my job, there was something was triggered in me. It didn't take like a year. It took like a year before it changed anything. But when I got that corporate job, I got gotten interviewed by my boss. And my boss in this interview, not for the job, it was like an interview they did for a newsletter that they created for the for the business so that people could know we just hired Melissa. This is a little bit about Melissa.
Mm.
And he asked me this question. This question, Amber, changed everything. Like was like kind of the seed that planted for my growth. And we're in this interview and I'm sitting at the table across from him and he's like, so I'm just going to ask you a few questions, just answer super organically. Like you don't have to worry. There's nothing you can say wrong. It's just so people get to know who you are. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Mind you, at this point, I'm the mother of 2. And I have a husband and a dog. And so on this chair sitting across from him and I'm being interviewed and he asks me, little things about me. Then he asked me one question that changed my life. He said, what are your hobbies? And I swear, Amber, you could have thought that he asked the most complicated equation in the history of equations. Like
Wow.
I looked at him like, in my head, the only thing that could run through my head ever were my husband's hobbies at the time, my kids' hobbies. I realized I had no fucking hobby. I didn't do anything and like I did things like I worked out.
So you were like wifing, momming, and working.
I had no identity. I had no identity of my own. And so when he asked that, I looked at him and it was so obvious. He was like, like things you like to do. And I was like, and I don't even remember what I said, but I know I made something up. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I said I knitted. I don't know.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, I was like, yep, I am an avid crocheter. Like
I'm not crocheting all day long. So
see this sweater I'm wearing? I made it. Like
myself. So I remember that was kind of like the one, the like the pebble that started the avalanche. Like it was just like this.
I'm like already so obsessed with your story because this is where like people don't know like how our soul speaks to us, how the universe comes in. Like this was something so far away. Like you didn't go on an ayahuasca retreat yet. You didn't like, do all, it wasn't like one of those things. It was you going to a corporate job and some boss guy asking you, what are your hobbies for a company newsletter? That was your aha moment.
Yeah, yeah. And so right there, I started to realize there's something not right about this. Like I should have things that I love to do. Like and then I started exploring the idea that who am I? Like, and I realized that I don't even know who the fuck I am. Like, I don't know what I like to do. I don't know who I am. I didn't know any, like, all I knew was my kids, my husband, and my family life. Like, that's all I knew. And my friends. And, at the time, I thought that what I was supposed to do for fun was get together with my girlfriends and get drunk. But all of a
Mm,
sudden, that wasn't feeling fun anymore. Like, I was just like, who am I?
mm.
I had no idea who I was. Like, absolutely no idea. And so that started this whole journey. And eventually, like, it took about a year. And I started realizing that all the things that I was doing was so that I can find some form of happiness outside of myself because I couldn't find it within me.
Oh,
Yeah. And
oh.
it was so I realized that I wasn't happy in my marriage. And that was one of the first things. And I realized that
Mhm.
but I was still looking for happiness outside. So I really believed I had this belief. And I've talked to my ex-husband about it. I had this really super core belief that he was supposed to make me happy. And he
And
wasn't
so
sure.
many people do because
Oh
we
my
are
God.
spoon-fed. Codependency is the
Yeah.
pinnacle of love.
Exactly. And so he wasn't fulfilling that. So I had to let him go and find somebody else that would fulfill that.
Mm.
And so I realized I let my ex-husband go. We separated. It was semi-amicable. We tried our best. We did really good for my kid. Like I know he was a little resentful. I had a lot of people decided like felt like they had a choice because I had my whole life was my marriage. Like
Mm.
my girlfriends were his best because he grew up with a nice core group of guy friends. So my best
Oh,
friends were my husband's best friends' wives.
wives.
So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
my life. And so when we separated, people had to make a choice. And so I was left alone and it was perfect. It was absolutely, I needed to be left alone because this was the journey I was supposed to go on. And it was so perfect. And then I got into a super toxic relationship immediately after because this guy made me happy. He had the
Mm.
20% that my ex-husband lacked, right? And so I built a whole relationship on 20% when I had a husband that had 80, right? But I built a whole relationship on this 20% that made me happy. Ends up he was a drug addict, like super toxic. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't quote him as narcissist, but I really think he had a lot of narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah.
So
I was
and
gonna say Instagram has educated us all well enough to know we see like, some symptoms of narcissism. It's
yeah,
okay.
hardcore narcissistic tendencies. And but the beauty of him, so he's the one that brought me to the medicine. So his narcissistic tendencies, and his drug addiction, took me. I was having a conversation with my eyebrow lady. I get my eyebrows microbladed.
Yo, girl, same.
Oh, yay! Aren't
Same.
they
I actually
funny?
need Olivia. Don't hate me. I need to get a touch up. I think I'm gonna change. I have like powder brows right now, and I'm thinking about switching to like more of like the microblading.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so we're faded a little bit. It's I'm gonna see you soon, Olivia. But yeah, that I
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I need Bonnie. I need you in a little bit too. But I see her like twice a year because my skin doesn't keep
Yep.
the color. Like it's whatever. We could go.
Side note.
I know microblading is the way to go.
Yeah.
Um, so so I go to my microblader and I'm getting my eyebrows done. Like the way the universe has spoken to me has always been through the weirdest ways. And
I'm
so
so
I'm
in love with this
I,
story so far.
I'm getting my eyebrows done and I'm already kind of I'm starting to read books. A friend of mine, actually, it's so funny. She was a recovering alcoholic. I was like hardcore drinking at this point. We're going to come back to the microblading story, guys. But I was hardcore, like drinking, like blackout drinking, because I was in this toxic relationship. And this really amazing friend of mine, Kathy, that was a recovering alcoholic, like was really supportive for me through this process. And
Mm.
she would take me out, and I would get shit-faced drunk, and she wouldn't even have a drink, which was amazing. Now that I think about it, but
Shout out to your girl, Kathy.
yeah, shout out to Kathy. But she told me, she's like, "Hey, I saw this book and I thought you might want to read it." And there's a few books that like I love books, by the way. Books are my like have been my so she introduced me, and it just came out to Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Your Back.
Oh, yep.
And
I
I
feel like
was
that's, I tell people, like, I was like, there are some gateway books out there. That's definitely one of them.
That's definitely one of them. And so I was listening, and I was listening on audiobook as I would drive to my corporate job that was like an hour drive from my house. I would listen to the Audible, and I realized like all these things she was saying. I grew up Catholic, and I always questioned Catholicism. Like it never made sense to me. And then I hear Gabby talking about it, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's everything I always believed. Like there's somebody else. And I thought she was like, it was me and her in this world. Like just me and her knew this. That's this secret that nobody else knew. Mind you, it's like spirituality. But I can't believe I was like, Gabby, like, how do you know this? This has been the shit that's been going in my mind since I was a little girl. It just, everything she said made so much sense. And then I started exploring things with her, and I saw that Oprah interviewed her on Oprah Super Soul Conversations. And then I started watching Oprah Super Soul Conversations and all the
Mm.
people she would converse with. At the same time, my boyfriend that was a drug addict at the time gives me this book. He's like, you know, as quote unquote narcissist. I'm not going to diagnose him, but would say like he gave me this book, and he's like, it's a really difficult book to read. I don't know if you'd understand it, but I'll give it to you because I don't get it. And it was the Tao Te Ching. And I
Oh.
started reading that. And at first he was right. I didn't really get it. But like now it's like one of my favorite books to quote. But I started reading the Tao Te Ching, like all these things, like the way they just presented themselves. And then fast forward a year and a half of this toxic relationship, and I go to get my eyebrows done. And I'm talking to Bonnie about my boyfriend, and I'm just like, he's got a drug addiction. I want to fix him. What all this stuff. She's like, whoa. She's like, I'm gonna go for the first time to go drink ayahuasca. She's like, you should tell him. I heard it's really good for drug addiction. Amber, the minute she said the word ayahuasca, every hair on my body stood up. And I was like,
I actually have that happening right now.
oh my, I was like, I don't know what the fuck ayahuasca is, but whatever it is, I know that I have to do it. Like, I mean, I'll tell him about it, obviously, but I know that I have to do it too. Like, it's not just for him. It's not just going to heal his addiction. And so, he was trying to make it work with me, and I told him about it. So he went. He's whatever. It was such, but I mean, whatever. He went, and he went to like more make me happy. He went over there and then drinks ayahuasca, and then goes to the bar and drinks at the bar immediately after. And it's just whatever. He's like, it's only a glass of
Yikes.
wine.
Yikes.
It's only a glass of wine. And I'm like, it's an whatever. So long story short, I go to my first ayahuasca ceremony, and literally changed my life. Like night and day. The medicine showed me the truth of who I was. The medicine just told me like little things to change in my life just to make it better, like just to be more in alignment. And so I was create, and then when I came back I didn't understand a lot of the things she said to me, but when I came back, it all started coming clear. Like, and literally within a year, all those messages that she had talked to me about, or those messages she had shared with me, was exactly the way I was living my life, and they all made sense to me. You know, there was one message that took me almost 2 years to figure out, which was crazy. And I realized it when I figured out. I was like, oh my God, this is what she was saying. But for the most part, like every message that she told me, she showed me in like this super goddess like space. Like I walked through my home in a past life, and I lived in this beautiful palace in Egypt. It wasn't a palace. It was like, I don't know what it was, but it was beautiful. And there was a statue of me, and I had two snakes, one on each side of me. I actually have her tattooed on my belly. But she showed, and when I spoke to the shaman about it, he was like, she's showing you who you are, like, and how you need to treat
Mm.
yourself. You're a goddess. Like, you should treat yourself like a goddess. And so all these things, and I realized I wasn't treating myself, my body, anything right. And so I came back home. I did I just literally a 180. By the end of the year, I looked back, it was on a July. By the next July, I looked back at my life, and I was completely different. Completely different. Yeah. It was.
I have to tell you, Melissa, it is so, because obviously I know nothing about your story. Like, we literally met. I just felt that energetic connection, knew I had to invite you on the podcast. I literally just sat in a like a discovery call, essentially, for a retreat that I just committed to going to in Mexico, the end of July, beginning of August, where I'm going to be sitting with ayahuasca for the first time. And I just, like, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and like my body is hot. Like, my body is hot. I feel the cold chills with like all of the heat, and I like literally can't wait. I wish that this retreat was like next week. And it's just so interesting because I, obviously was feeling a little bit of trepidation. Like, I'm a human being. It's a lot. But hearing you speak about this, it's like the universe gifting me with that extra validation and confirmation that I'm making, the right and most aligned choice for me. So I'm just like, I'm sitting here kind of stunned. I lost my podcast tracking a little bit because I'm sitting here like, oh my God, like, this is going to happen for me. And then the other weird thing is that I've done a lot of shadow work journeys, and I have gotten this vision of like my highest self, like my goddess embodiment. And I want to get this gigantic tattoo on my thigh of her, of what she looks like. And I just got this message after the, discovery call for the retreat to wait until after the retreat, because I would have more clarity about what she looks like. And so I'm like literally going to Instagram, like DM my tattoo artist to be like, yo, can we set it up for like, like as soon as I get back from this. And so I'm just, the synchronicities are I'm sitting here and like, and I'm also hoping that someone else is going to be listening to this and they're going to be getting that validation and confirmation for their own life, because I feel like so much of your story just resonates so deeply for me. But I know that I personally have talked to probably at this point like 50 people who have followed a very similar path, where like they did check all the boxes, they were doing all the things, they had the money, the shoes, the handbag, the whatever, and they were empty. Mm-hmm. They were so empty. And just kind of like going back into that, and like these beautiful little spiritual breadcrumbs from your boss, from your permanent makeup tattoo artist, like out of this, like how did you then like take what you had gotten from this medicine that you literally stumbled upon, and then you actually had to start implementing it? And that's, I think, where a lot of people maybe are even hesitant to hear, what the medicine is going to say to them, or like they're avoiding actually listening to the call to medicine, or even if it's not medicine, it's just leaning into your soul's journey, because they know that they're going to have to shift, change, and let go of things. So you had that experience, you come home, and then what happens?
Yeah. And so then you see, the thing with the medicine is that the medicine isn't, and one thing I want to make super clear to all who are listening, and to you, just, I'm sure you know this, but the medicine isn't a solve all, right? It's not it doesn't fix anything. The medicine, what she does, and I always like the analogy, how they say you can take a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink.
Yeah.
The medicine is like literally taking the horse to water. And what happens after the medicine, whether you drink or not, is what you bring into it. So
there's the free will, right?
Yeah. You choose what you want to do with your life. But here's the thing that I learned, that when I lived my life in alignment, there was peace. When I lived my life according to what I thought was the right way to live my life, when I lived my life according to, let's say, my ego or whatever you want to call it, there was disarray. And so I started to know the differences in how I felt like when I'm in alignment, when I surrender, when I live my life freely, when I'm in flow. I'm aligned. I'm happier. I'm more, I'm more content. I make better decisions. But when I'm in this space of judgment, in the space of, you know, of fighting it, of anger, of fear. Fear is a big one. When I'm in any of those spaces, it just doesn't feel right. So I started to realize that this feels nice and this doesn't. Why can't I continue to live my life here? Right. And if that feels in the space that feels nice, like why would I choose to continue to live my life in this space that doesn't feel aligned? It doesn't feel flowy. It doesn't feel right. Um, and so that's what I started to see. Now there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen in this situation.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I started, it was my journey into unlearning. Like I started, there's a beautiful story about Michelangelo, the sculptor. I don't know if you've ever heard the story. Someone asks him like, and this is in layman's terms. There was fancier language then, but someone asked him like, Michelangelo, how do you create such a masterpiece? How do you see a masterpiece in a block of marble? And he said, the masterpiece is already in the marble. All I have to do is get rid of the excess marble. And
Oh,
so, yeah. And so that's what I realized that all of our lives were. We were all a masterpiece with a shit ton of excess marble. And so if we could just get rid of the excess marble, and that's my whole coaching program. My whole coaching program is around getting rid of the excess marble and then watching and seeing the masterpiece present itself. And so if we could just get rid of the excess marble, what is the excess marble? Our inner critic. What is the excess marble? Our limiting beliefs. What is the excess? Our inability to create boundaries, our lack of forgiveness, our resentments. This is all the excess marble. If we could just not even so much get rid of it, but if we can become aware of it. Because of course, let's say in an 8 session coaching program, which you're not gonna get rid of all of that, but you can become aware of it. We can plant seeds. We can give you tools, right? And so if we get rid of this excess marble, all of a sudden our masterpiece presents it. And then we feel, because here's the thing, if you don't know what it's like to live in your masterpiece, you'll never be able to live in that space. You have to feel it to understand it or to be able to live in it, right? And so if once we get rid of a lot of this excess marble and we come into acceptance, become aware of it, then we can present our masterpiece. And from that space, we've tapped into it, we've tasted it. So now we know what it tastes like. So when we already know what it tastes like, so we can tap into it whenever we need to. And so that's what I learned. And that's what I'm continuously learning. So here's the thing. We're always going to have an inner critic, right? We're always going to have belief systems. It's a matter of becoming aware of those moments. What am I, and that's one thing I love to ask myself whenever I'm going through it. It's like, what is my belief right? What am I believing? Because it's a belief that's creating whatever this is. It's a belief, and it's usually a belief and a fear. So it's like, what am I believing and what is my fear? What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
And so what happens is you create that awareness, and whenever you're feeling that, you're like, instead of reacting, you get to stop, you get to check, oh, what am I believing and what is my fear? And then you get to respond from that space instead of reacting, from fear, from beliefs. And so that's pretty much what I've been learning, and it never ends, right? I'm constantly learning.
Nope. And I was going to say, if anybody, comes across anyone who thinks that they have it all figured out, run fast, run far. Like, no.
Yeah. And it's big. And here's the thing I've also learned is that a good teacher, right? Because I consider myself a teacher. I teach people how to become aware of these things. I teach people how to actually see when they're in that space, right? And I think a good teacher gives you the tools for you to go on your own and do it.
Yes.
A good teacher isn't someone that says, but hey, you need me. You can't do this without me. And so that's a big thing. That's what I pride myself in. Like I'll teach clients how to do cord cuttings. I'll teach clients how to, because I'm like, I couldn't do your cord cutting. That's not a problem. I know how to do it, but I want you to be able to do it because you're not only going to have to cut cords once in your life, it's going to come up several
Yep.
times. You don't need me to do that. And I always tell people, like, even when I do Reiki and I do an intuitive Reiki, so I tap into their spirit guides and angels, and people are like, "Oh my God, how do you do this?" I'm like, "You can do it too. We all have the capabilities of doing it. And so one of the things I find in this spiritual world and a lot in this community is a lot of people that say, "Yeah, but you need me to do it. You can't do it without me." And that's another thing I'll tell people to run. Like if someone isn't their goal isn't for you to become independent and do it on your own.
Yes.
If they're presenting something to you that you're going to need them for the entirety of your life, run because
Yes.
that's not how it should be.
Yeah. And anyone who's listened to more than one episode of this podcast, one of my metaphors for leadership is a leader is somebody who has climbed up that mountain and they're reaching that hand back down to pull somebody up to where they are. A good leader is not somebody who's like, oh, like, you just stay down there. I'll tell you what the view looks like up here. If you want to know what it looks like, you just stay down there. I'll tell you. And it's also not somebody who's crouching down to allow people to stand on their backs to get up to where, they want to be. It's really that, knowing that you've done it, you're reaching back down and you're helping to pull somebody up to be on that beautiful space that you are. And there's plenty of room for all of us up there. And I tell people a lot, whether it's a coaching client or a therapy client, my goal here is to work myself out of a job. If you feel like you still need me after we've been working together for a year or whatever, there's something that is not clicking. I'm not effective. There's something that maybe I'm not the best guide for you in this space, and that's okay. And also good leadership is being able to know when maybe somebody does need to work with somebody else or something's outside of your scope of practice. And that's where it's so important for us to be able to have a network, have a community. And I know that you are actually very involved in community. And can you speak to that a little bit, just the importance of community and what you're involved in?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so I especially I'm in Philadelphia. So
Philly.
yeah. But Philly is super near and dear to my soul. And so one of the things I think, and this is another thing that I think as wellness providers, as healers, we need to work on more is coming together as that and becoming that community and supporting each other. And here's where like that old paradigm of there or even it's a scarcity mindset, right? If Amber succeeds, well then there's not room for me. Like, and there's some of that in this, believe it or not, there's some of that in this community where people are super territorial about like, well, I'm doing this event in this space. Don't tell anybody where it's at, because if they find out about the space, then they're going to use the space. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happens to the space if more than one person uses it, but apparently it's a bad thing. I don't know what it is, but apparently, like, that's just an example. Like, people do retreats in other places and they keep their retreat centers super hush hush because if somebody else does a retreat there, all of a sudden this retreat will no longer be any good. Like, it's just, it's crazy.
I'm laughing because this is such an accurate depiction of what does exist, unfortunately.
It's so sad. It's so sad. And I've come across a lot of wellness providers that are seeing this in the wellness world, especially here in Philadelphia. And I'm sure if it's here in Philly, it's all over the world. But that are seeing this and we're just like, dude, enough is enough. We need to come together. And we all have the same purpose in mind. There was a friend of mine, one of the ones that I collaborate with, where she says, we're all looking to get to the same location, but we're all in separate cars. Why don't we just get in a bus? Like, you know what I mean? We all have the same goal. Why are we all going in separate vehicles when we could do it together? Right.
Yeah.
And push each other forward and support each other. Let's say Amber has an event and I find out that Amber has an event. Oh crap, it's Amber's event. Let me support her. I'm going to share it with all my followers so everyone knows that it's Amber's event and she's doing this event because I know what she does is of quality. And I know that her goal is to heal, is to make people better. And I know this about her. So I want to share that with the world because my goal isn't my popularity or whether or not I become famous. My goal is how many people in this lifetime how many women, how many men, how many just humans, children, whoever the fuck I come across, how many people in this lifetime can I make better? Or can I open their eyes? Or can I help them see their masterpiece? You know,
Yes.
it's not about me. And this is where it gets crazy. And I think this is where the humanness and the ego comes in. And
Yep, I was just about to say, like, if you haven't, and I think that is where you can know when somebody has really done that deep inner work to be able to tell their ego, like, hey, I love you, but you need to like sit down and shut the fuck up right now, because
yeah,
like there are things going on that are so much bigger than you, so much bigger than me. If we're out here to heal the collective, trust me, there is plenty of healing to go around. There is plenty of wounded people to go around. Like, it really does need all of us and all of us working together if we're even going to put a dent in helping this poor planet that we're hanging out on together.
exactly. Exactly. And accountability is another one. Because I'm not sitting here telling you that my ego every now and then doesn't chatter like, oh, do you see so and so? She's totally using your whatever. Like I'll do a workshop and somebody else will use my workshop that I came up with. Oh, did you? And there's a little, I have an ego
Mhm.
too. And it comes up, but it's that awareness. I'm not telling you that I don't have an ego. Like,
No,
I'd be
no.
lying. It comes up. There's little things like, oh, did you hear that this person is offering Reiki like 2 blocks away from your place? Like little things. And it comes up. And so that's when I have to be present to that and practice that awareness and say, like you said, you know what, ego, you can check yourself at the door. We're not doing that right now.
Mhm.
And that knowing and that faith that everything is working out in your
Yes.
best.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone.
Yes. Because that
Everyone.
is it. Like, if you're winning, I'm winning. We're all winning. Like, and that is like, there's so many. There's not first, second, third, fourth place. It's like we all get across the finish line or we don't. And like, it's going to take everybody working together to be able to get there. This even came up for me. I have a private, Facebook community for people who enjoy the podcast. And one of my friends was like, yeah, like I would love to join, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually looking for some accountability. I'm working on a program called Sacred Leaders. Oh my gosh, instantly, Kate, Lolly, I love you. It's all good. Like, instantly my gut was like, ugh, don't let her in. Don't let her work on her
Right.
program. That's your name. That's your, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, like, hear you out. I know that, all this fear is coming from a lovely place where you're trying to help me make sure that I don't go hungry. I got that.
Right.
Appreciate you. However, we exist in this space of infinite abundance. Okay. It's not like somebody's going to take it and then there's not going to be anything for me to eat. Okay. This is an
Exactly.
infinite, like endless all night buffet. We got plenty. We got plenty.
What?
So I was like, come on in, girl. Like, come on in. Let's work on
I
this
love
together.
that.
Like, let me know how I can support you. And that was my genuine response after taking time to have it be a response and not a reaction.
Exactly. Exactly. And here's another thing, Amber. It's not yours.
Nope, it's
Not
not.
even yours. It's and like literally like there's in the plant medicine. So now I've been drinking ayahuasca for quite some time now. I've had like 20 ceremonies. By the way, I want to like say this to you before we end. If you need anything, like reach out and I'll give you some tips and tricks. Like, but
Thank you. Love that.
yes. But what I learned, one of the lessons I recently learned, I want to say about 2 years ago, or yeah, about 2 years ago from the medicine, is that culturally, they can't deny anyone the medicine. The
Mm.
medicine has been created for, and people don't try to use this to your advantage. It's not right. But the medicine has been created from the earth. So if someone shows up to a ceremony, they can't deny them the medicine. Everybody has to, like, it's just indigenous law. Like, you don't deny anyone the medicine. And in Puerto Rican culture, we have something like that. Where we don't deny people food. There's
Mm.
I remember one of my ex-boyfriends, when I broke up with him, shows up to my house to have dinner. And my mom's like, in Spanish, she's like, we can't deny him food. We can't. So the guy I just broke up with for cheating on me is literally sitting across the dinner table from me. And I'm like, fucking Puerto Rican culture. I'm like eating my food in front of him. And he's like looking at me like, because he knew she could have denied him. But anyway, this is part of the plant medicine world. And so I
Mhm.
learned this and I took this on in my life completely. Like it's what I use for everything. So when anyone asks me anything, I think all this stuff that we do, Amber, is medicine. And we can't
Hmm.
deny people the medicine. So if
Yeah.
someone says, Amber, can you teach me a little bit about sacred leadership? That's the medicine, Amber. It's your job. Just teach her about sacred leadership because you can't deny her the medicine.
No,
You can't.
nope,
You can't. And
no.
you deny her the medicine, you're denying the world the medicine.
And I actually get really excited when other people like it's the same because even as you're speaking, the framework that you use to work with your clients is pretty much spot on to the framework that I use, but it's because it's not your framework, it's not my framework. If we're going to be honest, it's because we're tapped into the collective consciousness and this is the medicine that we're all needing as human beings. So we're getting that information from the other dimensions, from like, all the other places and spaces that exist that are using us as conduits and tools to be able to help give this knowledge to other people. So when I hear you speaking in a way that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's how I work with people, I get so freaking excited because I'm like, we're doing it, man. We're doing it. We're all speaking, all of the same truths, but in different languages, in different dialects. The people that are meant to work with you are going to be different than the people that are meant to work with me. But if they walk away knowing the same core truths, that is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think exactly why when we have that community, it allows people to be able to synergistically work together and know that if somebody comes to me, like I will be honest, if a woman of color came to me, I would refer her to you because that's not part of my lived experience. I am like, y'all see me if you're watching this video. I am like as white as it gets, okay? And like I had a very white upbringing. Like there is no spice in this. I can't even chew big red gum, okay? They didn't season my food growing up. My eyes water if I try to chew big red gum. Like that's how white this girl is. And so if I'm trying to serve somebody in integrity with authenticity, I am not going to be in alignment for that person, most likely. I would much rather them be able to have somebody who did have that unique lived experience that's going to be able to connect with their soul on that deep level.
Right.
And that's great because now I know, like, and trust you, Melissa, and I can be like, yo, you can listen to episode whatever this ends up being of the Sacred Leadership Podcast, see if Melissa is your flavor and go on over and hook up with my girl. Like, she's got you. And that's a big mission here for the reason I have this podcast in the first place. It's to be able to elevate the people who are out there being sacred leaders, answering the call, knowing that everybody needs a different guide. And that is amazing.
Yes, thank you for that. That's so I've had people refer single moms to me,
Mm-hmm.
women of color, like just because they're like, dude, I know Melissa does kind of the same thing I do, but she can connect with you more because she can do it from a single mom perspective, or she can do it from a woman of color perspective, or and that makes a lot of sense. Same. If I saw someone that I felt like I couldn't connect with, I definitely refer them to like I had a lady that came and she was really hung up on my degree. Like I think because my degree wasn't in anything coaching. It was in PR. I have a degree in public relations. And so and so I recommended her to my therapist slash coach that has a whole degree in psychology, and she's also spiritual, and she's also a coach. So like I like it's that's how it needs to be. It needs to be because people need that for their security. Not that I couldn't have served her. I could have totally served her, but for her security, she needed to feel secure in this person has this piece of paper, and
Mm.
because they have
Yeah.
this, I know that they're yada, yada, yada.
Right. And because you are not operating from a place of scarcity or a place of ego, you didn't feel like you needed to make yourself fit. Like, yes, could you have helped that person? Absolutely. But were you the person that was actually going to be in alignment with like their highest good and their deepest healing? Probably not. But that to me is ethical leadership when you're able to take that step back and not be in that scarcity, not be in that ego and say like, hey, like I could do this for you, but you know what? I think this person is actually going to be more in alignment. Let me connect you with them. And that again is how we help more people get that deep level of healing. And this is, I talk to a lot of people as a therapist who've gone to so many therapists and they're like, yeah, I just didn't really connect. And if you're not connected with that teacher, that guide, that healer, that coach, if you don't really feel seen, heard, and held by them, your healing is going to be a fraction of what it could potentially be.
Exactly. And if the person isn't real, like if I were coaching And when it's so funny because all of my worries, when I get in front of a client on Zoom, all of my worries about, I got to pay bills, I need to, all that goes out the window because I want to be my truest self. And if I think about all the things I got to pay and all that, and I need to make the sale. And there was a time when I first started coaching where it was all about, I need to make this, I need to get this person to like me. I need to make them. And so now that it's been years, I'm just like, you know what? This person, I might not be the right fit for them. And so if I'm not, that's perfectly fine. Because again, that fate, and I have that knowing that everything is in perfect alignment, and it's always going to work out for me. Remember, it's always going to work out for me. Whether this person hires me or not, my life is always going to be okay. It's always going to work out for me. And so I have that knowing. And so when I get onto these calls with clients, it's not about making a dollar. It's about what is the best fit for you? What do you need? Like I've even done clients that are like, I really want to work with you. And I feel the genuineness in it. And they're just like, but I can't afford it. And I'm just like, okay, let's work something out. I don't want money to be the reason why you don't get what you need, you know? And so like I've gone, I mean, I've done it all, coaching programs, like single moms that I'll talk to. I've even met people and I'm like, I know you don't have it. I really feel a call to help you. I want to coach you. You don't have to worry about paying me. Maybe you can do an energy exchange. Maybe you could, I don't know, do something for me, but you don't have to pay me. I know you don't have it, but I really feel like I can help you. And, I always try to take on, I guess that's a pro bono or whatever. I try to take on at least one client a cycle that I do. And so I might meet somebody at a retreat that I do, or I might meet somebody at an event and I'm just like, oh, I really feel a need to help them. And I'll pick them up. So it's like, it's a matter of that. It's that scarcity that'll have you in that space of inauthenticity. Because if you don't have a scarcity mindset, you can be authentic. You can be like, I'm good. This is like not for you.
Yeah. And I know that you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I would love if you could touch on this before I let you go, because that is such a beautiful point to make about really making sure that scarcity is not playing a role in our soul work, because it really does block us. It really does get in the way. It really does kind of bring up all that ego stuff where we might not be making decisions in alignment with our highest good and the highest good of the people that we're trying to serve. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be this all or nothing, that we can actually find different ways that we can support ourselves as healers. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with being a healer.
Exactly. So what I was talking to you about is because as I mentioned earlier, I was a teacher for many years and I went into corporate and then I went back into teaching. And then I realized that it just didn't align with, I was a kindergarten teacher and the way life was post-pandemic in a kindergarten classroom was just out of alignment with anything that I believed. I was just like, I can't do this. I'm a disservice to the world. I'm a disservice to these children. It's against everything I believe. I couldn't do it anymore. So I left teaching and at the time my business was growing. So I was like, I'm just going to go full time into my business. And it's been a year now and it'll be a year in June. And it's been pretty beautiful. Like I haven't missed a payment. I haven't missed, a rent payment. My bills are paid, but everything is pretty good. But it's like, it's kind of that analogy you said, a baker that loves to bake and then he becomes a baker and decides like, I started to realize that because my business was my primary source of income, it was losing some of the pizzazz that I loved, like some of the flow, some of the joy, because at the end it was like what I would be with my coaching clients, and I'm super centered with my coaching clients. But the minute I finished with them, it was like, oh, now I got to do admin work. Now I got to do that. Now I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to, set up a Calendly for this event, do this. And it was just like it just started to be, and I have to promote this event because I'm doing this event. And if I don't promote this event, I won't sell tickets. And if I don't sell tickets, I can't make the money to pay and all these things started. And I was like, it's becoming such a business that it's not bringing me joy as much as it used to. Like I was telling my son, and I told you that I was telling my son, I was like,
you're very wise 21-year-old.
My very wise. Well, he is like, oh my God, you should interview him. He's amazing.
Okay.
but he was like, I was telling him about how like, I used to love, like, I love what I do. I love coaching. The part that where affects me the most is the event and how I used to go to my events in the space of such like flow. And I was like, it was magical. I would come, I was so excited about these events and I would host them because my bills didn't depend on this event. It was just like this thing I did
Oh,
because
it was
out of
like a little extra special, like sprinkle on
yes.
top, like, yeah.
And I did it out of passion and love. And because I did it out of passion and love, I was excited about promoting it. I was excited about like creating
Yeah.
the post for it. I was excited. And now that it's become a job, kind of part of my business,
Right. Yeah.
it's lost that excitement. Like I'm like, oh, I got to create another post for this event. And I'm not to say you can come in with my events. Once I'm in my event mode, it's quicker.
Yeah, right.
But it's the stuff that
Yeah, it's like when you're in your zone of genius, that's great. But it's like all the stuff around that just felt so much harder.
it just felt so hard. It was no longer coming from excitement. It was coming from a need, like a necessity. Like I have to create this event.
Have to, not get to. Yeah.
Yes. Like I have to create this event. I have to create this post. I have to promote this event. I have to promote that event. I have to promote this retreat. I have to promote. And it just became this like list of to-do that just didn't stop. And it was like, well, because if I don't do it, my bills won't get paid. And I need my bills to get paid because we have a home and I'm a single mom and all the things, right? And so then I was presented with an opportunity. A friend of mine was like, hey, did you ever think of like just subbing, like doing long-term sub? And she was telling me how much she gets paid, which is pretty nice. And I was like, that might be nice. Not to pay, because it's not going to pay all my bills, but it'll take the edge off, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was like, and she told me the hours, like super, super, super cushy. Like I get out of work at 2, like it's super cushy. And I was like, you know what? I'd do it. So I went to an interview today for it. And the guy was like, oh, you're in, we'll give it to you. And he's like, and I want you to would you be interested in being full-time next year? And I was like, oof, that's something to think about. Let me do the sub position first,
Oh yeah, let me feel this out.
I was like, let me see, because I don't want to commit to something that I won't be able to do. And I was like, let me see how I like teaching high school, because I taught kindergarten. I was like,
yeah, that's a big difference.
Big difference. I was like, let me see how I like teaching high school first. So I'll do the sub to see how I like teaching high school, and then I'll come back to you. And I'm talking to my very wise 21-year-old, and I'm telling him about this. And he goes to me, he's so funny, and I hope nobody from the school district hears this, but I go to him.
Probably not.
I know. I go to him, I'm like, yeah, but then he was like, well, what do you think about taking the job? I was like, I mean, I would take it because it'll take that edge off. And then I'll be like, I'll come back, and I miss being so passionate about these things. I was like, and I'll come back from that space. I'll be able to like create more of a business plan for my business, like really, really launch it from that really nice foundation and all the things. Cause I left my job without having a plan. Like I just left. And so I'm talking to my son about that. And my son's like, Mom, you know that if you go into teaching and you don't like it, you can quit. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're you don't have to.
We love you, Gen Z. Gen Z is just like, yo, if you're not about it, leave. Like, and like us millennials, we're like, I'm sorry, what? Do we not need to like, contemplate leaving for like, I don't know, 6 to 12 months and then like talk to all of our friends and family about it and have them convince us that we don't really need to go anywhere, and then do like 12 back and forth emails to try to like figure out how we can stay and then ultimately leave, but it's way after the fact and we're really miserable at that point in time. Like, no, you can just leave. Like you can just leave.
You can just,
Thanks for the permission, Gen Z. We love you.
It's so beautiful, but it's so the way we should live life. Like, I mean, of course I wouldn't leave like with no
right,
more.
yeah.
Like, of course
we have work ethic involved here and integrity. Yes.
There is work ethic. Like, of course I would give up time, but I think that was such beautiful permission.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and it kind of allowed for me to give myself permission to just be like, you could do this. You could do this. Try it. See if it works. And if it doesn't, you can always leave. And I was like, I do have a whole business that I can't sustain myself with if I decide, But so that's where I'm in right now. And I've been exploring this world of like, because I'm all about, and in the interview questions, I was telling you about divine feminine, I'm
Mm-hmm.
all about like really, really tapping into my divine feminine. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when I'm in that space, and if I can explain it better, I'm so in my masculine, like in that work, work, work. I have to create posts for this. I have to promote this. I have to, it is so in my masculine that it's so uncomfortable. Like I'm
Yeah.
so uncomfortable in that
I feel
state.
like your masculine is almost just like choking and suffocating the part of you that is the divine feminine. It's just like taking over. You have your own like inner patriarchy going on.
I do, literally. And I'm just like, well, if I get this job, and it's high school Spanish, like I'm not teaching like, that's important. People should learn a second
It is,
language.
but I will say, like, high school Spanish was like my most favorite time of the day, where I feel like I could actually like have fun, enjoyment. There was culture. Loved my high school Spanish teacher, Senor Alba. For anybody who went to North Penn, yeah, like it was. There's a little bit more space there to be a full human being, and not necessarily have to be like teachery.
Yeah. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm exploring this thing because I definitely want to be, but also I won't take a job that I'll be miserable in. I will never do that. Like that
Yes,
I will not do. So this is
yes,
why I said I do the sub, because no matter how hard my passion, like how challenging sometimes my passion could be, it's my passion. So at the end of the day, I love it. And I'm not going to take a job that's going to make me miserable. I won't. I
right.
won't do that. So this is the new thing I'm exploring, and I love that you wanted to talk about this because I feel like part of me, and again, my very wise 21-year-old, we're very open with each other, and I was talking to him, and he's like, "Well, how do you feel about it?" Because we talk to each other like this, like, "Well, how does that make you feel?" And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, there is a little tinge of me that feels like I failed in entrepreneurship. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
he was like, and he listens and then all the things. And I was telling him about this. He was like, and then this is right before he told me about I could leave. Um, but he was like, Mom, like, if anything, like you should be proud of what you like. I'm gonna cry because it's so he goes, if anything, you should be proud of what you did. Like he's like, no one would have most people would have stayed miserable at their job just for security. He's like,
Yeah,
you
it's
took a
true.
huge chance. And look, you're doing it. Like he's like, you should be proud. And if you have to do something to like really love what you do again, then do it. Do whatever it takes. And that's what he told me. And you can quit. Ask if you don't like it. Like, it's not permanent. And it was such a beautiful thing because I was like, there was a little, ooh, that's why this was just earlier today. So guys, it's still,
Oh, so this is real fresh.
no,
Oh,
it's just
thank you
real
for
fun.
sharing this with us in like real time.
This was, I know this is so, but he, just that beautiful space. And it's just, I'm really upset. I'm really present to like the beautiful relationship that my son and I have, but also like, holy shit, if you feel like you're in this space where what you love to do has become a job or a task, or you've lost the passion or whatever it is for it, and you
Yeah.
might have to make a different decision just to regain that passion, do it. Like just do it because it's available to you. And I had a teacher that once told me, don't don't pretend you are further than where you are. But that was such a beautiful lesson because like even in this world of like entrepreneurship and all the things, the challenges that come with it. If I were, let's say, Donald Trump income status, I might not have these issues, right? But I'm not Donald Trump income status. I am where I am. And to pretend that I am in the Donald, that's kind of excessive. But anyway, to pretend that I am in that income bracket is to pretend that I'm further than where I am. And right
Mm.
now, I'm not there. And so whatever it takes to make me love what I do more. Because if I can come from that space of passion, the work that I do is so much more authentic. It's so
Mm.
much more beautiful than coming from that space of fuck, I gotta promote this. Fuck, I gotta pay the bills. Fuck, I gotta, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, I love that so much. And it's so interesting because, I think spirit speaks to us in like so many different ways. And like out of the blue, I had wanted to listen to, so I'm like literally going to date myself. No problems there. So Green Day, their original album, Dookie, there's this song on there that everybody like doesn't know. It's called She is the song. And if you haven't ever listened to that, like go relive, the best emo years ever. Like get that on your Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever you need to do. But it's so interesting because there is this line in this song that I've been like on my, like in repeat on my head. And it's, she's figured out that all her doubts were someone else's point of view is like, that's been the line. And like, I'm realizing I'm like, that's it. It had to do with this conversation that you and I were going to have today, because it's true. When we are doubting ourselves, usually it comes into some supposed to, right? But like, who said the supposed to? Who said that, taking on something to support your entrepreneurship is failure? Who said, right? It's somebody else's point of view. Exactly. And that doubt, that is something that you can let go of when you actually find what's true and align with what's true to yourself. And I think that is so beautiful, because I love a leader who walks the walk and talks the talk and practices what they preach. And that to me, like, right, obviously I connected with your energy when we met in person. Then in our little pre-interview, when you were sharing that in your truth with me, I was like, oh, I love this, because I would never have somebody on here who's like, yes, and so I'm going to help you have like 20K months because like, I just got back from like my royal yacht cruise. Meanwhile, they actually did that trick where they held up a toilet seat to a window and they took fake, private jet photos. It is a thing. It is a thing. People literally, there's like all these hacks on the internet where people are like literally like become an influencer like from your bedroom, and like, people buy toilet seats and like hold them up because it looks like a private jet window. So like, basically like fake these photo shoots. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But that's like where I was like, I love that you just came out and we're like, I had an interview earlier today. I like might go and teach high school Spanish. Like that is amazing and beautiful. And I am here for all the people who are permission givers. And I so appreciate you taking the time to be so raw and honest and share your story with us today. When people are interested in your ceremonies, your events, your coaching, how can they find out about those things and connect with you?
Oh, yes. So for my coaching, you can go on my website. It's thespiritualmisfit.love. For anything else, events, whatever it is, I am going to get them on my website. I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's on my to-do list. But if not, you can come on my IG, my Instagram. It's at _spiritual_misfit. That's my IG. Definitely hit me up, to DM me. Let me know that you heard about me from the Sacred Leadership podcast. And that's where I promote all of my events.
Awesome, because we will definitely be dropping all of that in the show notes for you guys to follow along. If you want to try to become a part of my bachelorette party, like send me a DM. Might get some guest spots going for my goddess party bachelorette. I really can't wait to like connect with you further about that, Melissa. Thank you again for taking your time, your energy, sharing your vision, your mission, your soul's purpose with us today. I so appreciated this, and I didn't even know how amazing of a conversation this was going to be. I was just like, let's just talk and see what happens. And this was straight up magic. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I had so much fun. Thank you.
There you have it. Another episode of the Sacred Leadership Podcast on the books. I hope your time spent here served you and nourished you. Join us every Tuesday for more honest conversations and powerful insights. Remember, exceptional leaders share the wealth. Send this episode to someone who would benefit, leave a review to let others know about the show, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Talk to you soon.